From a blockbuster trade that cost the team a pretty penny to Kyrie Irving possibly leaving the Mavs to team up with LeBron James. Today, we're taking a look at why the player might leave the Dallas Mavericks, starting with why the team's blockbuster trade was risky. I mean, nobody can deny that it was one of the biggest trades in NBA history, but they were on the hunt for a co-star to complement Luka Doncic. Sure, Irving has had some drama follow him in recent years, and he hasn't been the most reliable player in terms of game time, but the Mavericks were willing to take the gamble because they believed that the superstar point guard is worth it. Plus, he's the best player that Luka has ever played with, so that's saying something. Of course, there's the question of how long Irving will stay with the Mavericks. Well, he's in the final year of his contract, and the team had to give up 2 starters and 3 draft picks to get him, so it's not a done deal that he'll be sticking around long term.
By Malik Monk. Irving over Trey Lyles, and the big guy a little uncomfortable stepping out on Kyrie, and he makes him pay.
Fans who were hoping for the player to sign an extension with the Mavericks might be disappointed though, because, you see, he's only eligible for a 2-year deal after the trade. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. He and the team aren't even discussing a long-term partnership until after the season. It's certainly going to be exciting to see how he fits in with the Mavericks, and how he and Luka will work together on the court. If all goes well, who knows? Maybe he'll choose to stay in Dallas long term. But that's probably a long shot, because there are lots of opportunities for our star player. Let me put this in simpler terms for you. Kyrie Irving is one of the most sought-after players in the NBA. And despite all the drama that has followed him in recent years, there's no denying that he's a talented player. So naturally, many teams will be vying for his services. And even with Kyrie on the Mavs roster, they aren't necessarily committed to keeping him in the long term. After all, they traded away 3 draft picks and 2 starters to get him, so they're likely weighing their options and keeping them open for the future. Still, the fact remains that several teams are expected to make a push for him this summer when he becomes a free agent. The Lakers and Suns are both rumored to be interested in reuniting him with former teammates LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Of course, the Mavericks are also in the mix, but they're not so confident in their 2 star players right now. The Dallas Mavericks' playoff chances were already looking slim, but as the season winds down, things are getting even worse. After a disappointing 132-130 loss to the Atlanta Hawks, the Mavs find themselves at 37-42. This places them 11th in the Western Conference. To make matters worse, they've lost 7 out of their last 8 games, and are currently out of the play-in game. The situation isn't completely hopeless, but it's grim. Unfortunately, giving Luka Doncic some help on the court by signing Irving didn't have the impact they were hoping for. I mean, the team has gone 7-12 since the trade. The loss to the Hawks was the 7th defeat in their last 8 games, making the situation even more frustrating. But then again, the offense can't carry the team alone. I mean, let's be real, the Mavericks defense has been second-rate at best, and it's not doing them any favors. Doncic has been talking about this issue for months now, but the team hasn't been able to address it. To make matters worse, they needed a win badly on Sunday, but fell short. Doncic missed a game-winning 3-point attempt at the buzzer in overtime, and just before that, Dallas was penalized for a foul on Trae Young, who was eventually given 2 free throws as a result. Those were the deciding 2 points that gave the Hawks the win. Despite the setback though, Doncic finished the game with 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists on 38.1% shooting, while Irving led the team with an impressive 41 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals on 59.3% shooting. The Mavericks still have 3 games left in the regular season, and they'll need to win them all if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. Either way, this is a tricky situation for the Mavs. On the one hand, they got an incredible player who can be a difference maker for their team, but on the other, there are a lot of risks and concerns that come with offering him a 4-year max contract. For starters, there's the issue of his availability. He's had a lot of injury problems in recent years, and that could be a big concern for the Mavericks. They need a player who can stay on the court and contribute to the team's success right now. Then there's the issue of team chemistry and whether or not he's a long-term fit. Will his style of play mesh with theirs? I mean, this is an important question that the team will have to answer before committing to a long-term deal. It's a tough call, but one that they'll have to make sooner rather than later. So, will they offer him the deal? Well, NBA insider Mark Stein reported that no new contract has been promised yet, but they might offer one soon enough because, you see, the Mavs need a player of Kyrie's caliber to compete at the highest level, so they just might do what it takes to keep him in Dallas. Whatever happens, nobody can deny that this is a juicy topic that has a lot of fans and analysts talking. The player has a reputation for wanting to leave when things start to go sour, and it's not hard to see why. He left Cleveland when he realized LeBron was leaving, and he left Boston after a disappointing season. Even in Brooklyn, he left after they didn't offer him a max contract. So the question on everyone's mind is, when will he want to leave Dallas? I mean, the Mavericks would be taking a big risk by offering him a 4-year deal. For starters, re-signing Kyrie to a max contract will put them in the luxury tax for every year that he's on the roster, and Mark Cuban hasn't paid the tax since 2012. So it remains to be seen if he'll be willing to do it every season. But let's talk about the bigger question. Could he force Luka Doncic out? We've seen this happen before with Kyrie and LeBron in Cleveland. The same happened with Kyrie and KD in Brooklyn. So could Luka and him be the next duo that departs a franchise in a short window? It's something to keep an eye on. If the Mavericks do manage to retain him, it'll be interesting to see how things play out between him, Luka, and the front office. If they can make it work, we could see a deep playoff run and maybe even 5 or 6 seasons of success. But given the player's history of wanting out, it's not the most likely outcome. All eyes will be on him once the Mavericks season ends on April 9th. And even if they manage to keep him through the summer, there's no guarantee he'll stay. Other teams like the Suns, Clippers, and Lakers will be vying for his services, and they all offer him the chance to compete alongside multiple superstars. The Mavs are in a pretty tough spot right now. Time will tell what happens.
For a dribble handoff back to Kyrie, that's being denied right now by Kawhi, but Irving made a cut and scores his first points as a Dallas Maverick, and the Mavs have a 10-0 run in progress right now.
But for now, that's it from me about why Irving will leave his current team.